Well, good evening, Mrs. Johnson. How are you tonight?
Hello, I am doing wonderful. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, I'm excited to have you here. And we were talking about that Wagyu beef. Uh, what's the deal? Or give me a little backstory on Gary and his Wagyu beef and what's going on with that.
Well, as long as I have known the Yamamotos, Gary has got a ranch outside of Palestine, Texas, and it's probably, I don't know, 750, 800 acres of land, and he cattles Wagyu beef out there. In the recent sale of the bait company, he is focused pretty much more on the beef than he ever has before, and so he is selling. You can buy Wagyu steaks. You can buy Wagyu roast, hamburger meat, patties. I mean, the whole cow, whatever you want to do. And it's just amazing beef. And have you tried yours yet?
I hadn't tried it yet, so we still got ours in the freezer. My wife, as a matter of fact, she had one of the boys was trying to get into it the other day or yesterday, so she had to run them off from it. We're waiting until we got a nice little evening where I can fire up the grill and we can get them cooked.
Yes. Okay. I want a full report.
Not a problem. Now, you just shared a little information that some folks may or may not be aware of if they don't pay close attention to the fishing industry. So, Yamamoto bait sold. So, any backstory on that? Good experience so far, or what's the.
It has been a great experience for me and some of the other women that were on the Yamamoto custom bait fishing team. It's now Yamamoto Baits. GSM is a company that bought Gary Yamamoto Custom Baits, and they're just changed up the brand a little bit, changing up the packaging, but it's still the exact same bait, the exact same process, the exact same secret ingredients, recipes. They're going to bring back some other baits that have been retired, some old colors that have been retired, coming out with some new stuff. So everything is going smoothly on our part at this end, at this level. And so just keep your eyes out. If there's something that you've been wishing that you could have or wish they'd bring back, shoot me an email, a text message, a PM, and I can relay that information forward.
Oh, well, that's good to know. As long as they don't change the formula for the Cincos.
They're not, I promise. They promised us they're not, and I haven't seen any difference so far.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what we're going to go ahead and do. We're about 2 minutes, 50 seconds, almost 3 minutes in. We've got 8 people watching, so it may take a few more minutes. I'm going to go ahead and hit the countdown. So, for those of you that are watching that are new, we're going to have a 5 minute countdown. That gives you a chance to go get you a nice glass of iced tea or whatever your favorite beverage is. Make some popcorn or whatever. We will be back. We are going to discuss the Lady Bass Anglers Association tournament on Caddo last week and the Women's Bass Tour tournament on Caddo last week. We have Alisa Johnson on, who won the Lady Bass Anglers and got a close second place in the WBT event. We're going to talk some more about that and her techniques and see if we can get the secret tips. So, Alisa, we'll be right back. Just hang on. All right. We have survived another countdown. I'm doing a little adjusting here on cameras and that sort of thing. And like I said, we got a few people watching. Maybe we'll pick up a few more. If not, people can watch it on the replay. All right. So, first things first, we'll get the usual normal stuff out of the way. Let's start off with, why don't you give a brief introduction of who you are, kind of where you're from. Obviously, you don't have to give away your address or anything, but what your home lake is, that sort of thing.
My name is Alisa Johnson. I live in the outside of Chandler, Texas. I have the beautiful Lake Palestine as my backyard. I call that my playground. Of course, Lake Athens is closed, Lake Tyler is closed. So sometimes it's kind of hard for me to venture too far from this area when it comes to bass fishing because it's just such a great fishery right here. I guess I'm blessed in that way that I don't have to travel. Um, but me and Caddo kind of have a long history, and it's one that I think I'm kind of growing to love.
Well, I told you right before the show started that we're going to take a little trip down memory lane here a little bit. I've got some video footage that I don't know if you've actually seen yet or not, and so we'll review some of that and go down that memory lane.
Oh no.
All right, so What got you, of course, not to sound, male chauvinist or anything, but bass fishing is predominantly a guy's sport. So, what got you into bass fishing? Kind of give us your history of bass fishing and tournament fishing.
Well, I have a very good friend and mentor, Pam Ridgel. Our families are very close. Our kids have grown up in school together. Um, of course, our kids are in their 25 and 26 years old now, so we've been friends for a long time. And she just had asked me if I wanted to go fishing one day. I said, sure. I think it started in February, one of the coldest months this direction. And she took me fishing I think, to kind of see if I had the guts to go fishing. Could I weather the fishing, or did I just want to be a fair weather fisher person? Because it was freezing cold, and I loved it. And she just kept taking me and teaching me, and then we started fishing a few little tournaments together, and it just grew into this love. Now, I've always fished, like with my dad, running trot lines, crappie fishing, cat fishing out of a stock pond, um, but never tournament fish until um, I guess that was in 2010 and 11. And then the LBAA grew, and she started fishing that first. Pam Ridgel did, and finally convinced me that I had some skills to go and fish and could be a co-angler. And so I just stuck with it. It's a passion that has continued to grow. Unfortunately, I don't get to fish, 300 days out of the year because I am a wife. I work a full-time job, have kids and moms and all the other responsibilities, but I fish as much as I can when I can, and I absolutely love it. I've always been competitive, and so that just fits in with me trying to learn what these fish are doing, depending upon where and what I'm fishing. And when I put the puzzle together, uh, it feels great.
Well, and I'm glad you said that about being competitive because that's one of the things about tournament fishing. It is very competitive, and I was interested if you were competitive in any other sports. I don't know, softball, anything like that. And by the way, my wife Gina says "Hey girl" to you, so I'll try to put some comments up every now and then. But so are you competitive in other sports? Did you play any sports in high school or anything like that?
All through high school, all the sports, softball, track, volleyball, basketball. I was probably the tallest girl throughout, our little high school town, and always been competitive, and it just runs deep in my veins, I think.
Yeah, and that honestly, for people ask me a lot, hey, why do you like to tournament fish so much? Because I donate a whole lot more money than I'll win. But it's that competitive thing, and that's what keeps you going. But all right, so we'll switch gears. And now that we've got the background, the general questions out of the way, I want to switch around to, let's start with the first tournament that I met you at, which was the LBAA Classic in 2019. That was on Caddo Lake. Let's see, and I think that was August or September of 2019, something like that. So you want to give us the lead up to that tournament? I think you had won Angler of the Year and maybe or Co-Angler of the Year or something like that. Give us the lead up to that tournament.
Uh, I had won 2 years back to back, 2017 and 2018 Co-Angler of the Year, and felt that, of course, getting a lot of push, a lot of encouragement that it was time for me to jump sides and move over to the boater side. Found me a heck of a boat. It was an I class, a Skeeter, older model. Uh, I fish by myself quite a bit. My husband doesn't fish, so he wanted something big enough, sturdy enough to handle the waters. Because the LBAA, we travel for great distances and see a lot of big water lakes that we compete in. And when I'm by myself, he just didn't worried so much. And so the top 15 anglers fish in the classic event, so you have to qualify. And I did not qualify that year on my rookie year, 2019, but I got in on a draw. Several of us anglers kind of had, I think it was a four-way tie, and I got in on the draw and was at Caddo. Um, I had spent a lot of time on Caddo leading up to that tournament, trying to first just learn how the lake, learn those buoy markers, learn how to run them, where to go. just so that I can be comfortable. Because I think tournament fishing and any type of body of water, you need to be comfortable and you need to have confidence. And to me, that's accomplished by being on the water and just getting to know what's happening and knowing your surroundings, knowing where you're at. So you're not stressed. That's one less thing you have to think about. You can just get in there and go. You know where you're going. You know what you're going to do. Having that plan together.
So when you're preparing for a tournament, whether it's the Classic back in 2019, the most recent tournament last week, or whatever other tournaments you fished, generally how much practice time do you try to get in?
Well, it depends on where it's at, but for closed tournaments, I can spend usually 2 weekends prior to an off limit. And then we have a week of dead water and then 3.5 days of practice. So that's what I did then in 2019, and that's what I did this past tournament. I spent Easter weekend here on Caddo and the weekend before because I participated in the snag-proof frog tournament.
Right.
So I was there checking out water, kind of getting familiar with the lake again.
Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll go down memory lane. Now, I went back and looked, and I believe the 2019 winning weight that you had, and that was a 3-day event, was 42.39 pounds, which is an average of 14.13 pounds a day over 3 days. All right, so that's an important number to remember, 14.13 pounds per day. All right, so let me see if I can get this video queued up here. So you should be able to hear this. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to run, this is the news clip from after that tournament. It's a couple of minutes, so I'm going to run that, and then we'll come back and we'll comment on it. Oh, and my wife says, I'm so happy that you won.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so here we go. Memory Lane Part 1.
Alisa Johnson was named Rookie of the Year in the Ladies Bass Anglers Association. She says despite all of her success, none of it would matter without the support and love from her family since she first started fishing in a small pond. Matt Thibodeau shares her story tonight in our special report.
Lighting up the waters in what some may call a male-dominated sport is Alisa Johnson, Ladies Bass Anglers Association's Rookie of the Year. At what seemed like no time at all, Johnson went from fishing in local lakes to signing T-shirts at pro tournaments.
I didn't expect a whole lot of myself at first. I kind of had a little trial and error. It took a lot of family and a lot of support from the ladies that I fished with and against to kind of encourage me to stay and keep fishing.
Johnson didn't start her fishing days wearing a jersey. Instead, she was formally introduced to the waters and was baptized in East Texas tradition.
I've always grown up catfishing in ponds with my grandmother. That she had a stock catfish pond. She would chum them up with the little can and some dog food, and we would just go out there and have a blast.
Growing up near Lake Palestine, making time to go fishing was easy, but it was so much more than just having fun on the lake or putting food on the table.
The lake have always been my serenity, my peacefulness. I just find a calmness being on the water. You really can able just to take in God's creation and the nature. You see all kinds of things.
And all her current success out on the water didn't happen overnight, and she didn't achieve it alone. Since the first competition, always at her side is her best friend and mentor, Pam Ridgel.
We just had it. There was just one of those things when you meet somebody and it just happens.
I had to learn how to bass fish. I had to learn how to tournament fish. And she took her time to teach me.
And the pair didn't meet on a body of water or at a bait shop.
Alyssa and I met several years ago, probably about 20 years ago. We had kids that went to school together, played basketball together. They were all friends, and so we actually met through basketball games.
The lessons passed from friend to friend proved to be fruitful, and Johnson proved to be a quick study.
I know I taught her too well. She has definitely, she has gained a title that I have not received yet. She has learned a whole lot. She's an excellent angler. I know that if I miss one, she's going to get it.
Despite all the fierce competition out on the water, Johnson still finds time to be thankful and appreciate every blessing.
We are all working women that are in this circuit. We are mothers, we're daughters, we're sisters, we're wives. We take care of our home. Most of us have a full-time job, but I'm thankful for my family that I do leave because I know they're back home supporting me.
With a short and impressive resume, the sky is the limit, and she knows she can do better. The next tournament will be in Natchitoches, Louisiana in March. Until then, Johnson will be practicing and working on perfecting the skills she learned in the pond so many years ago. Matt Thibodeau, Fox 51 News.
And congratulations, sir.
Okay, so interesting thing there. That was back in 2019, and Pam is a great fisherman. So let's jump forward a little bit to this past Saturday. You got second place in the WBT event on Caddo, which was really your third day of fishing Caddo overall. Who was it that got first place and beat you?
That was Miss Pam Ridgel.
And tell us the story of, you know, that weigh-in or whatever, because I think she only beat you by like a tenth or 2/10 of a pound or something.
Yes, she had 9.35 and I had 9.25. I did have a deduction because I did have a fish that died on me. And so I keep a really close eye on my fish. I didn't even know, you know, he was even struggling. So that kind of hurt me in the end and kind of taught me a little lesson to be a little bit even more watchful, because though every ounce counts. Every ounce counts.
Yeah, and, you know, I guess when one of your best friends beats you, that, I don't know if that makes it better or worse.
It just makes it okay. I'm proud of He's always proud of me, and it always, always encourages me to do good and is always proud of me.
Well, and like I said, we're going to go back down memory lane here in a second, but one of the things that I've noticed and has really impressed me about the LBAA especially, and, you know, the other women's events, is y'all seem to have a big camaraderie up there. Like, when y'all go weigh in, the other ladies are cheering y'all on. You don't really hear that a lot in the guys' tournaments.
No, it is a big family. When we're off the water, we are helping each other, talking, we're sharing our families. I know that in any situation I needed any kind of favor, whether I was at a tournament or if I was driving through Alabama or Kentucky and something happened to me, I could just pick up the phone call and call one of my LBAA ladies, because they would be there, or they would help me any way that they could at a drop of a hat. And that's just the way we are now. It is all business, and we are competitive when the prayer is done and the national anthem is sung and Larry Valentine says, "Let's go," it's game on. But at the end of the day, we're all still just a really big, close family is what I would call it.
Well, that's awesome. All right, now we're going to circle back, and we're going to go back down memory lane again. So let me see. I'm going to queue up just a couple of videos here. So I think these are some fish catches.
So it makes my unit shut itself off.
Oh, there she is. Get it, girl.
Wind was blowing pretty good there, too.
Come on, hang on. That's a big one. Woo! That's a big boy.
All right, let's see. Here's another one. Nice hook set.
Got it. Another one. Another big one.
All right, so let me flip screens back here. So that was Cheryl, I think, either running the boat or running the camera or whatever, and that was footage she had shared with me. So kind of, if you can think about it a little bit, just kind of take us back, you know, for a minute or so back to those fish catches. Can you remember what you were doing? Again, this is back in 2019. Can you remember what you were doing?
I remember it just like it was yesterday. I mean, that was just such an amazing tournament. So much had happened to me leading up to this tournament. You know, first of all, not even wanting to qualify and have always qualified for a classic. It was almost devastating when I didn't and then got in on a draw. That meant that I knocked out a couple of the other ladies that was just at the same level that I was, had not qualified, but was, you know, point-wise was all just a tie. And then during practice on the first day, I had wrecked my boat hitting a buoy marker. Being a rookie, wreck your boat on a buoy marker. I felt like I wasn't even supposed to be there, that it was not my time. It makes you questioning, you know, do you know what you're doing? I had been on Caddo quite a bit. I was ready. I had pre-fished. I had found fish. And I was in my comfort zone, so to say, fishing a Cinco on a Wacky rig. That's the way I fish. Anyone that knows me or has been in the boat with me, I have a Wacky rig ready, and that's probably what I'm going. That's my go-to. That's what I'm throwing, and that's what led me to win on that tournament. I think I did throw a frog a little bit, but that was not what I was. My go-to was not the frog at that tournament.
Yeah, well, it's funny you mentioned that. Let's listen to some of that from back then. So you didn't know you were coming on a show with a time machine, did you?
I didn't. This is great, though.
Okay, so let's see here. Let me get to the right cut here. I think it would be this one.
Good morning. I am Alisa Johnson, pro angler from Chandler, Texas. Lake Palestine is my playground in my backyard. I'm here on beautiful Caddo, sitting in first place after an amazing first day yesterday. Conditions and everything just seemed to be perfect for me. Was able to bring in a little over 20 pounds. Today is an all new day. It's raining. It's still very, very dark out here, so lots of clouds. All the questions start going through your mind. What do you change? How do you adjust? How do you adapt? How do you overcome these situations? And for me, to start off with, I think I'm just going to try to go do exactly what I did yesterday, and then we'll adjust from there. It's kind of hard to fix something that's not broken yet, and we don't know if yesterday's tactics are broken, so we got to go test it, and then we'll adjust from there. And pray that we bring in another boatload of fish.
Well, apparently you did bring in another boatload of fish. So that was the morning of day 2. So does that bring back any memories there? And what is up with you ladies in the weather?
I don't know. I had actually forgotten that it had completely changed on day 2 of that tournament. So I do remember thinking in the back of my head, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? Because it's all different. But I do remember saying you just got to go do what got you here. You just got to go repeat it if you can. And then, like I said, adjust if needed.
All right.
It didn't. The Wacky was still on point.
Okay, so let's see. Let me check this cut out. This may be one that, I think this is a repeat of that fish. But hold on here a second. Yeah, that's you pulling that fish out of the live well there. And then cut 5
Good
here.
morning from beautiful Caddo Lake in Louisiana. My name is Alisa Johnson. I'm pro angler from a little town called Chandler, Texas, where I get to play in my backyard of Lake Palestine. 2 days of fishing. I am been blessed to be still sitting here on first place. I got a little over 32 pounds, and I've got a lot of great anglers on my tail here. They are ready and going to be coming guns a-blazing. Yesterday was a lot of weather changes, and I was kind of concerned about how I was going to change and how I was going to adjust. I talked a little bit about not fixing, changing if you don't know if it's broken or not. So today, I know I left fish, protected a couple of good spots, and my plan is to try to go back there and not let any tree be left untouched. They're out there. I saw, I think, an over 7-pounder weigh in yesterday, so I just need just 5 of those. I'm not asking for too much. I don't care if I catch 30 fish. I just need those 5 big ones. So that's my plan, is to get out there, be safe, and have fun and catch those big 5 fish.
Now, I got to give you a ton of credit because you and I had only recently met like the day before that or whatever. Maybe we met at the dinner thing. But anyway, and I'm there first thing in the morning with a light and a camera in your face. And you still just roll that fishing stuff off of your tongue. That's one of the things I've tried to help teach some of these high school kids that are fishing and junior kids is learn how to speak and talk about what you're doing. You don't have to give away the little details, but I got to give you a lot of credit for that. So tell us about day 3, and then we'll kind of look at a little bit of the weigh-in footage.
From what I can recall on day 3, it was completely different. It was a much tougher fishing. I think I had some unders instead of some overs. And in this tournament, we get to have paper fish. I don't know if we've talked about the paper fish that we get to use and count those fish that are in the slot.
Yeah, so talk about that for a second.
Yeah, we get to write down on a piece of paper our slot fish, which is, it has to be touching 14 to 18. and everyone has the exact same breakdown as far as what the length is to what the pound equals out to, and everyone is using the same golden rule that has all the measurements on that golden rule. And so our co-anglers have to verify and attest that this is what we caught, as I will have to do for the co-anglers. So we are each other's checks and balances to where that's not misrepresentative of what the fish actually, that we actually caught the fish that we're writing down. And I do recall that I had some unders that on day 3, and that it was a little bit harder fishery. So it really, I think, came down to a tight run between me and another angler.
All right, so let's show a quick fish catch, and then we're going to let you from 2019 talk about how you caught your fish. Here we go. Nice fish. All right, so here we go. Let's hear you talk about it.
How'd you catch your fish?
On my first day, of course, I've been here all week, a lot of practice. We had a lot of spots to go, and I kind of just kept circulating through these 3 or 4 spots. But can you imagine a tree in 4 or 5 foot, 4.5 foot of water? We found some deep trees, of course, on my Wacky. Got fortunate enough to come across a frog bite. I'm not the frog person at all, but boy, I know why Linda Gessner throws that little thing. It is a blast to catch. Oh my goodness. Got the frog bite going on, and it just seemed like I couldn't throw the wrong color. I gave them a buffet of soft plastics in my Cinco, and everything was right. So on day 2, running back to those spots, the fish just didn't produce in 2 of them, so I kind of had to go find some new water, and you kind of just stumble on something. You test it in practice, you just catch one, you just leave that alone, and thank goodness those fish were still there, and it kind of kept me up in there. So,
all right, so looks like you did have a little bit of success on a frog way back then, but you sounded kind of surprised that catching them on a frog was so much fun. So that was then, and we're about to move into last week's tournament. So kind of take that little bit right there and walk us through the last day.
On that year, 2019, coming off of being a co-angler and having the opportunities to sit in the back of the boat and watch these women work different baits, I am like a sponge. I try to soak it all in. I try to remember and kind of keep things kind of tucked away. So in this situation, I can try. I had been in the boat with Pamela Martin Wells, and she schooled me on bull shoals using a top-water, top-toed type of frog. And it looks really simple. It's a cast and reel. The feet do all the work. Linda Gessner, we call her the frog lady. She works a little twitching frog like magic. And it is a art form. It is a skill, and they make it look so easy. So I had that kind of in the back of my mind, and when you're working some baits over grass and these pads that Sylvania that y'all produce, I remember the blow-ups. I remember the frog just kind of being there, but it's not something that I've ever really used until recently, and I'm just so glad that I did.
Well, we're about to get to that. And so for those of you watching, make sure and tag some caddo fishing folks or anybody that's got a lake with grass. And honestly, folks, you don't have to have grass to catch them on a frog, but we're going to get some secrets from Alisa here in just a minute. All right, so I want to play one more cut. So you mentioned, I want to know if you still have this gift that you got from 2019. So let me play this video, and let's see if you still have the gift that you got.
Hold on a second. Oh, look at here. Wait, come here, Johnson. Come here. What does this say? What does this say on the what does it say?
That's the post. Yeah, if you see out there, it's kind of leaned over and it's kind of scuffed up. Yeah.
So what'd you put on here?
This is the rub rail that she ripped off.
That came off her boat.
This is AJ was here.
And it's got the date, AJ was here. Will that be a prominent place in the house, you think?
I don't know yet. I'm not sure how to take it, but it is.
Okay, so I got to let everybody know, when you go by G14, which is over there basically between Big Green Break and Tar Island Slough on Boat Road G, the one that's leaning over, it's her fault. So do you still have that?
I do have it. I keep it. It's a reminder, and that's just kind of how these ladies are. Secret York is a mess, and it was such a devastated day when I did that. She just had to find a way to bring some laughter into, I learned from that happening, and she just had to kind of help me. I mean, all those girls that I was bunking with that day just had to help me find some confidence. And my mom and dad drove up from Lumberton, Texas. And when you have family around you, it really kind of eases yourself. And when your daddy says your boat's fine, let's get some duct tape on it. You're not going to sink. Nothing bad's cracked. You're just going to need some work when you get home. And your mama says you just got to get back out there and get back on that horse. You just got to go. And
well, wait a minute. You fixed a skeeter with duct tape.
Yeah, my daddy did.
Was it black duct tape, gray? Was it white?
I wish I had one that could make like a big Band-Aid, but it was just black. It was just black duct tape.
Well, and it's interesting about that because, or correct me if I'm wrong, because of that incident, that's what eventually led you into the new boat that you're running now, which, tell us what you're running now.
I am teamed up with Bingham Marine out of Belton, Texas. They are associated with Falcon Boats, and so I am in a 21-foot FX Tournament Series Falcon, and I absolutely love that boat. After the monsoon and I think the tornado that came through on our day one, that boat handled it.
I was going to ask you how much bilge pump do you have, because it poured down rain that day last week.
Yeah, I don't know how much I have.
A lot, huh? Okay, so I think that's pretty much all I have, at least for right now, for going down memory lane. So let's move on to last week's tournament. Now, I told you that your winning weight for 2019 was 42.39 pounds. That's over 3 days. That's 14.13 pounds a day. Your winning weight for Thursday and Friday's LBAA tournament, 2-day tournament, was 28.68 pounds. And I'm pulling that from the iBass 360 Facebook page. That gives you an average of 14.34 a day. So you upped your daily average between 2019 and 2022.
That is just so crazy to me. I really don't know how to describe it, except that it was just my turn again, I guess. I don't know, because I finished completely different in a completely different body of water. Believe me, I checked out those spots from 2019, but the fish just weren't there yet.
All right, so give me a second here. I'm going to pull up the, let's pull up the iBass 360 page here. Let me see if I can make my software work like it's supposed to. And looky there, I even kept us up on the screen. All right, so this is iBass 360's page. Let me see if I can zoom that in just a little bit for those of you that are watching on mobile devices. So if you go to iBass 360 on Facebook, just search for them. They're pretty easy to find. You'll see that they've got the results posted. I don't think the LBAA page has it posted yet, or they didn't as of a couple hours ago. But anyway, and so they've got a nice write-up on this. And it gives the standings here, or the weights. So, of course, Alisa was first with 28.68. Alisa Johnson was second with 24.44. Y'all have a heck of a rivalry going between you and Alisa Johnson and you and Pam. So tell us a little bit about Alisa Johnson.
Alisa Johnson, she is an amazing angler, has probably been doing this twice as long or so, has always fished from Alabama tournaments. I have fished with her in the back of her boat several times, and she is just one of those sticks that without a doubt, she's going to come in with 5 fish. And she's got a little thing going that she'll come up and put an X on my back if I'm in front of her. says, now you got the target. And talking to her at this past Saturday, Thursday and Friday, I said, you know what? You just keep putting that target on my back because that just makes me fish a whole lot harder.
There you go. All right, now they've got a shot of, looks like some popping frogs here. So let's kind of get into some specifics. Hey, Brother Shane, good to see you. So my good friend Shane Nugent says hey to me, and, well, of course, hey to Alisa too. All right, so are these the frogs that you were using, or do you happen to have one or the frog near you that I'm catching you off guard maybe, but that you could show on camera? Or what were you using?
I don't happen to have it. Of course, the boat's still packed up. I kind of did a 1-2 punch, so to say. I was using a Booyah popping frog, some grass mat, or on some lily pads, because that isolation is one of the things that I did fish in 2019, and that's when I fished, was that popping frog. And those fish would kind of show themselves to me. A couple of them, I did get it to take it, but as soon as they showed themselves, I would come right back in with a spro frog. When you do your homework and getting prepared for tournaments, I think you let that cat out of the bag a couple of weeks ago about the spro frog, and that's exactly what I picked up, and that's what I threw and caught I think every fish. But I was throwing not only the popping frog, the Booyah, it's black and it's got some yellow on it, that spro frog that you talked about, and I was throwing a buzz toad, and those fish would show up and would show out, and then I'd throw right back in with it with something a little bit subtler, a little bit softer. I'd throw that frog smack up right on the tree base, and then you just have to wait for all the ripples to settle. That's probably the hardest part, because frog fishing is already slow. But I think I have those patience built up because of the style of Wacky that I do. It's a very slow, very precise, very tedious movements when you Wacky fish. And so it's kind of the same thing in a way with a frog. All of the ripples settle, and then it's just a couple little twitches. And if that fish was there, that's all it took. Otherwise, you're just moving on to the next tree, or the next, if you want to fish a grass mat, the next grass mat.
Well, you said a couple things that are pretty interesting to me. So one is fishing the grass mats, because as much as I fish a frog on Caddo and other lakes, and I've posted several frog videos and tons of pictures on it and all that kind of stuff on the Caddo Fishing Report Facebook group and on my own Facebook page. But you mentioned using the popping frog to get them to show themselves, and specifically around the grass mats and the lily pads. And to be honest, I haven't caught that many bass on Caddo around, especially around the lily pads. I mean, I've caught a few, but I hadn't really focused on them. So that might be something that I'm missing a little bit of the boat on, is looking for those isolated patches. Was there anything, were they bigger patches, smaller? Did there seem to be any rhyme to the reason, or just fishing?
The bigger fish came out of bigger pads. Now, the bigger fish on Saturday that I caught with the WBT, that big mat of grass was covered with bait. It was just like caught up in it. And so, I mean, I did the same thing. I threw the black frog out there. It showed itself. I threw right back in with the spro, and I caught it. And that was, I think, almost a 5-pounder. The isolated smaller ones, there were smaller fish there. So I really think that the bigger mat, and it didn't matter if it was lily pads, because I think iBass 360 had shared my cull up with the culling ring that I was able to cull up with that big fish, and it was lily pads. So I still would like to try to figure out if it was the depth of the water. I mean, pretty much in no water to 2 foot.
Yeah, that's my next question was going to be, you know, I'm notorious for, if my trolling motor's not churning mud, then I'm too deep on Caddo, specifically with a frog. So my next question was going to be, was there any rhyme to reason to the water depth that you could kind of figure out?
The lily pads that I had found, they were protected by, I think, like 2 islands. And I only found a couple of pads that was really grouped up. And that was I don't know, to me it's just crazy 2 foot being deep for caddo. And then the grass mats, they were just close to trees, but they weren't. I mean, yeah, you can see trees that have the grass or the Salvania already growing up, but this is just a little mat off to the side. Those were in, 0 to no water. But
So all right, let's back up for a second, because you mentioned throwing the frog up to the tree, being patient around the tree, that sort of thing. So, and you mentioned that's kind of the way you fish a Cinco too, is slow. So or correct me if I'm wrong, you're not really what most people would consider these days a power fisherman.
no, I'm not, but I do. I do put a weight on my Cinco, on my Wacky. Very unconventional also.
Oh, wait a minute. So I got to hear this. So usually I'm throwing Cinco's Wacky style with no weight. I've got some that are the weighted hooks, the VMC weighted hooks. But tell me how you rig this Wacky up.
Well, it is a special hook. That's probably the one thing I may just kind of keep a secret. But there is some weight on it. And like you say, most people, it's on a spinning rod. It's weightless. Let the worm do all the work. And there are situations where you need that. But 9 times out of 10, I'm going to have my weighted Cinco ready to go.
You ever done any like the Nico style or any of that yet, or just?
I've not. I should, but I don't know.
Might be another comfort zone you got to get outside of and try.
Thing, and that's something that we can talk about when we get to Saturday, is going to be a jig. I get into just more tournaments where you use one bait, which that one tournament when we did the frog, the scum tournament, that really kind of set this whole frog thing in motion.
Yeah, and I did a show about that, and I showed the frogs and the issues with the hooks and all that. And look, no offense to Snag Proof at all or to Bobby's Perfect Frog. I'm sure lots of people catch lots of fish on them. I'm just a little biased to the Spro frog, not because I have any deal with Spro. I go buy them retail from, one of the Bayou Outdoors Super Center or one of the stores around here or whatever. But in my experience, out of the package, the Spros seem to be more consistent. But that tournament was fun. I should have weighed in 15 pounds, and of course, naturally I didn't. But it was still a fun tournament the way they did that. You want to spend a minute and kind of talk about that tournament?
That tournament was a lot of fun, but it was very frustrating for me. And where I come from being frustrated is that I was getting blow-ups, and it may not have been a frog. I think it was all the angler and not having the right tools. When you are frog fishing, I should have had my limit on day one, early in the morning by 7:40, because I missed the hookup. And I know you're going to miss. Everyone says you're not going to, you're going to miss them. They're not going to get the frog, but you have to have the right tools. And the correct rod was my hiccup. I was trying to use a medium heavy rod, 7 foot. And I was, when ladies are talking, I am listening. Someone had told me that they were having some issues throwing the frog, not getting that hookup, but when they went to their 7.2, a longer rod, it increased their hookup. So I went on a hunt for a longer rod with a heavy, not a heavy medium, but a heavy rod, long rod. And on my day 2, if that fish even sniffed at that bait, I didn't miss a hookup. I had every fish. It was a little bit more of a struggle, but we were just coming off the big typhoon. But it is very important to have the right tools to do the job that you're trying to do. I did learn that.
Yeah, and like you said, again, it's no secret that I fish a frog a lot. 80% of my posts have a frog in the fish's mouth. But, what I found is that you're right there, it's very subtle in the technique, but there's a difference in the way that you set the hook and having the correct rod. I've got one rod that nothing goes on that rod but a frog. And I don't know what I'm going to do if I ever break that rod. And look, it's not an expensive rod either. It's like a Lew's combo rod that I bought from, Bass Pro Shops or Academy. I don't even remember. But it is absolutely critical or crucial in my hookup ratios on the frog. And I don't wait. Very rarely. I don't do the count to 3 or count to 4 or anything like that. I found that my hookup percentage goes up drastically when they hit it. 95% of the time I'm swinging, even if I don't see them hit it. If I hear them, I'm swinging, and that doesn't mean that I get every fish, but it does mean that my hookup percentage has gone way through the roof. And that was after listening to Dean Rojas on a podcast, to be perfectly honest. Okay, so let's finish up on the LBAA tournament. I don't even know how long we've been talking. We're almost an hour here. I don't know how long you have, but
I'm fly.
I can sit here and talk fishing all night. So let's finish up with the LBAA tournament on Caddo and just kind of walk us through day one. Just give us a summary of that, and then walk us through day two.
On my day one, like I had mentioned, I had missed some fish. I missed some blow-ups. Not having the correct rod, I think, really was crucial in that. But it just took, maybe another hour or so to get the fish in the boat. And my co-angler, Jerry, she did me actually two wonderful favors, because I wasn't only fishing for myself. I was fishing for some women that were not able to be with us. And just real quick, I shot Pamela Martin Wells a little video, because I've been in contact with her as she is battling cancer. And has been telling me, you got to catch one for me, catch one for me, catch one for me. And so when I hit my limit, I shot her a little video and sent her that to encourage her that she would be here schooling all of us again if she could have, and that we were all thinking about her. And then one of our very close friends, Daisy Brumley, had a family emergency, and she was on fish. She had some good practice days and was probably ready to run away with this tournament. She had to go home suddenly, unexpectedly. And so when I started cooling up, I was able to shoot her a little video. And so it's not only fishing for myself, fishing for those that weren't able to be there. And then on day two, I had found a fish on Monday in that lily pads in between the islands, and I checked it. She blew up on the popping frog. I left her alone. I checked her Tuesday. She blew up. I left her alone. Wednesday, I wasn't able to fish. Thursday, we had the typhoon, and so Friday afternoon, I said it's going to be a long shot, and it's nowhere where I'm fishing at now, because I was pretty far from home fishing when you talk about launching from Earl G. I said, I'm going to go try and see if that fish is there one more day. And that was fishing for myself, because I had found her and was patient enough to wait and catch her when I needed her. And that was my big fish on day two, which I got to fish with my daughter. And that was a really neat thing. But that one was for me.
Yeah, so interesting that you mentioned, being patient with that particular fish. What I've found is that on Caddo, for the most part, there are fish that roam around, and we've seen that with some of the Caddo Lake associations tagging and all that. But for the most part, those fish are what we pretty much term resident fish. In other words, they have a home area. They don't leave it very far. They may swim a little ways, but they're pretty much going to try to stick to their home area. And a lot of them apparently will return to their home area. Even if they're caught, and released, say, at Earl G or somewhere else in a tournament. So interesting that you had that fish located and apparently were able to go back and like you said, capitalize on that.
It was a long shot, I felt like, but day two was a little bit more of a struggle. I felt like the storm really had those fish confused and not set up close to the trees like they had been. And they were doing the roaming. I mean, I saw several fish that were very nice, and swim right past the boat like I wasn't even sitting there. So it was a gamble, and I just had to go with your gut and go down there and see if she would bite again. And it didn't take but about three. There was two different sections of that pad, and it didn't take but a couple of throws across it with the popping frog, and she showed herself, and I threw right back in there with that spro frog that you talk about. And like I said, they either want it and they'll inhale it, or they'll just kind of slap at it.
Right. Well, and that technique you're talking about, folks, for those of you that listen, and as a matter of fact, let me add this comment up here. Let's see. John P. says, my friend at Oil City on Caddo said the same thing about the longer rod, 7.2 or 3 heavy action, that he had a better hookup ratio. On point right there. Hello there, Mr. Jeremy Gallman. Jeremy is I think, Jeremy, you're the president of the North Louisiana High School Fishing League around here, and Jeremy's involved in a lot of fishing stuff, so good to have him listening in. And folks told you she was going to give away some techniques, and so you kind of heard that about starting with one bait, getting the fish to show itself, and then being ready and immediately following up with the second bait to go ahead and stick the fish. Now, I'm going to switch gears here, and let's see if I can get my video to play nicely. So I think this should be the footage of Brooke weighing in on day 2, which is on the Lady Bass Anglers Association's Facebook page, so you can go there, of course, and watch it. Here we go.
Johnson, come to me, Britt. Let's see what she's got. Brooke Johnson, she fished with Mama today, which is kind of unusual. The computer draws them, puts them together, but how many we got in the sack? One in the bag, any on paper?
Yes, sir.
One little one. 103 is the weight for Brooke Johnson. 103. Brooke, a nurse and making her way through life and loving this fishing business and really digging it. She got, I guess, the bug from Mama. Mama's crazy about it, so Brooke had to be crazy about it too, I guess, huh?
Yes, sir. It was a fun day. It was my mom, she's taught me everything. She said, you're going to learn some more today. I'm going to school you, and you got to take notes back there. And I said, okay. It was a really fun day. A little different from yesterday, but not different from what we were doing in practice. I just couldn't get him today. I missed 2, so.
What, does she have a different technique that you never fished before today?
No, it was familiar, but it wasn't the normal, but it was good experience to learn something new on this lake, and hopefully I can continue to tweak it and get better at it. So.
Interesting thing she says there is she learned a new technique. Even though she wasn't totally successful at it, she was learning a new technique, and she said it wasn't it was a little familiar, but it was slightly different.
Yeah, she got to come up. She's a nurse and works nights here back at home, and so she only got to come up and spend maybe about 5 or 6 hours on the water with me on Tuesday, and then I wasn't able to fish on Wednesday. So I was trying to show her what I was doing in case she is in a similar situation, and with the boaters that she's drawn with, that she can at least try and see if it worked, in the areas that they were in. And
yeah, so I want to point out real quick, too, and forgive me because I don't have the lady's name. Let's see. Is that Sherry Jacks? Yes. Now,
yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Sherry fishes on the co-angler side, or at least she did on the Caddo tournament. She had big bass. That's a 9.01 big bass that she had, and she got second on the co-angler side. And I think I remember her saying that she does something or tries to do something different as the co-angler from the person or the pro in the front of the boat. And so that's very similar to what you just said.
Yes, that is exactly what she said. And that is exactly what, as a co-angler, would do, more so using the Wacky style of fishing behind my pros. And they may be up there chunking and winding a buzzbait or I can remember Terry Cedric cannot believe she is winding and chunking a crankbait, and I'm catching behind her on my Wacky, and she's like, how in the world are you able to do that? But it was just like that. It was just something different that, she was catching, but I was just cleaning up behind her too. So
yeah, and I'm fixing to cue up you coming up to the scales, but that's interesting because a lot of times, I fish a frog so much. It's my confidence bait. I throw a frog in the winter time. Basically, it doesn't matter to me. But sometimes I get so stuck. I go to the lake thinking this is what I'm going to this is how I'm going to catch them. And I don't know how you feel about that, but a lot of times what the fish are actually doing and what I think they should be doing end up being two completely different things.
It is, especially when we talk just a few minutes about the WBT tournament on Saturday being my day 3. I couldn't find a fish that wanted. Oh, I found one fish that wanted a frog, but then I just had to go back to my comfort zone and fishing a Wacky style fishing on the Cinco.
We'll get some more to that here in a second. Okay, so let's finish up day 2 here. So this is you coming to the scales shortly after Brooks. So let's see here.
Hey, Alisa Johnson, come on up, Alisa. She's got a sack. She's got some pretty decent looking fish in it, I think. How many in there, Alyssa?
I got 3.
3 in here. And
Yeah.
got her limit today. 2 old paper fish and 3 in the sack. The weight in the bag. 771 for AJ. 771 for Alisa Johnson. Mom and Dad are here. Any other family here, Mom? That's okay. All right.
Steven's here.
We're going to weigh the big one. She's got a big one she wants to weigh in. It's going to be 537, AJ. 537. All right. 1420, AJ, for your 2 days.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and jump ahead. And let's see you get your awards.
Lisa.
And, of course, we'll get a little buffering here.
Way to go. Way to go, Lisa. Congratulations. 68, 2-day total. Our winner and champion, Alisa Johnson. Alisa Johnson, AJ, give it a shuffle right now. Come on.
All right, so we're kind of buffering a little bit, so I'll forgo all of that. But I got to know. So when are you actually going to do this shuffle?
I don't know. That shuffle's so long ago, and it started on Caddo, and I was a co-angler, and the water had had gotten some rain, and it was so high that, you know, on your trees you kind of have a little gap there that before the limbs start and the water level. Well, the water was all the way up on those first levels of limbs, so it was very difficult for a co-angler to flip that bait to where it will hit the tree and fall. And so I got this little thing going on the back of the boat, and it just turned into this shuffle, and I'm just going to try to keep it a secret until I can, I don't know, as long as I can, I guess, because I can imagine what it looked like on the back of the boat with me trying to get that bait up underneath there.
And yeah, one thing you mentioned there too is the water was a lot higher. I've got, I was looking at showing some wobblehead video tonight, but I'm going to save that for next week. From last year when I shot my wobblehead video, and the water was at 172.2, so the water was 1.5 feet higher than it's been. It was technically 172. I think it's flood stage or minor flood stage anyway. So it's amazing how much that water can fluctuate. All right. So let's move on into Saturday, which was your 3rd day of fishing, but a separate 1-day tournament for the WBT. So tell us about that and kind of walk us through it.
The WBT, for those that don't know, is a chapter, kind of like a sister branch of the LBAA. It's a tri-state. It's with Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. And so it's more of a closer to home, a little bit more local. It's a 1-day tournament. Saturday, so you're not out a lot of travel or away from work or home time, and it's the same fun, experienced group of women who, you know, have that compassion of bass fishing. And so I thought, well, I'm here, they're here, let's just see, you know, let's just go for it. 3 days, let's do it. So I did, and I don't know if it's from like we talked about, the water level, just the fish not settling back into their homes from the storm and the rain, the mixture of the mud coming in off the river versus the cleaner water. I mean, there was a clear mud line where I was trying to fish, which might have produced some fish, but it didn't for me. And so I had started up in Britt's Gap. I had known that there was some ladies that had spent a couple of days up there fishing and had done pretty well, and probably fish would relocate there with all the current and the bait fish coming down. And so I started there, and that's where that big mat behind Britt's Gap, where all of that shad got stuck in that mat, and you could just hear them being busted. So we eased over there and caught a couple of fish, and then just kind of stayed in Britt's Gap. But I thought, you know what? I've got to go do what I've been doing a little bit further upriver, and they just wasn't there. I checked several places, and a lesson to that is don't leave fish to go find or see if fish are back. because that's just kind of losing time, losing driving time, losing fishing time. I mean, I wind up catching all of the fish that I had there in and around and through the current. Everyone knows of Britt's Gap, and might not should have left it. It got a little congested. It was a busy Saturday. It's just something you kind of have to deal with and get the boaters coming through and leaving and coming and going. The fish were there. They were stacked up there. They were feeding on shad. You could see them come up schooling, but they were very finicky. And that's when I went back to my wacky style of fishing and caught the other 4 fish on the wacky.
Yeah, and so there you go, folks. There's another direct fishing report. No being coy about it. She caught them right there in Britt's Gap. We all know about it. And, you know, if folks wouldn't stop and say hi to you and ask you how many fish you caught and all that, you might have caught a few more. But anyway, but notice what she shared is that she was paying attention to where the shad were and how the shad were pushed and ganged up into those mats. And you were able to catch some fish out of those mats, where a lot of people bypass that and just stick to those trees right there in the gap. And there's a little sandbar that's built up. They just stick to that, not necessarily paying attention to the other stuff around.
Yes, because I pulled up right up in the trees. I think that's like double C and C, whatever is all right there. And that water is just moving. You can just see it moving through the trees and stuff. And I stopped there. I thought, okay, wow, no one's here. I mean, it's 6:20. What's happening? Let's just fish here for a little bit, because that wasn't my plan. And you can just hear the popping and the fish flickering and the bass busted. I was like, where's that coming from? I mean, oh my gosh, it's behind me. We just got to let that current push us right over there, and let's just catch a couple of fish. And so always pay attention to your surroundings. Listen to those little snaps and pops that those fish, the bait fish can make, and capital.
You never know what you might find. Now, of course, my good friend Shane says that I am not allowed to fish Britt's Gap this coming Sunday. That's right. We do have our little club tournament there this Sunday. Very interesting that I'm doing a fishing show on Caddo just prior to that.
Oh, wow.
All right. Okay, so we'll kind of start wrapping it up, and I really appreciate, I know you had just gotten home not too long ago, and so I really appreciate you spending your evening talking about this and your family letting you do it and all that. Last thing I want to ask you about, because I think we pretty much covered everything on my list. Well, we didn't really talk about Caddo versus other lakes, but maybe talk for a second about Caddo versus other lakes. And then, as a woman angler, how is that, or what advice would you give to, like, Bradley Virgilito's daughter and her young friend who caught the 30 pounds on Caddo, a month or so ago? What advice would you give for them as a woman angler, or up-and-coming women anglers, young ladies, as far as, like, sponsors and how do you approach sponsors, kind of that answer?
Caddo, I think, fishes in a way that no other lake that I've been to. And I've been to, all the way up to Missouri, to Truman Reservoir, to South Carolina, Kentucky, Logan Martin. I mean, we've been through a lot of different lakes, and it is just like no other beast. It's a love-hate relationship, just like me and that frog. But I'm going to get better at it, so I'll love it more. But because there's just so many opportunities, so many trees. I mean, when I'm fishing and getting ready for a tournament, of course, you're looking at the reports, you're looking at all the different water levels, fishing reports that come out, what people are doing, and I'm going to look for some docks. I mean, I'm a dock, wacky fisher person, and so there are docks here on Caddo, and I think there are some fish there, but there's just so many other opportunities with these trees and the salvania and the grass and the cover that they have, that you really have to pick it apart. And I think different sections, because I fished on this lake in the, I guess you'd say, early fall, being August, September, whatever that 19 tournament was, and now in the May, I think the fish migrate in a different way, to where in the fall, I think those fish are going to be where I had found them before than where they are now. I think that maybe they just migrate through, and it's all about timing for where they're at. Does that make sense? I mean, I think it's just timing, that they're just not where they've been yet. and then trying to find, when it's hot summer, those deeper trees that I tried to find, which is very hard, that they were in some cooler water, is what made them set up on those trees in that deep water back in 19. But
Right.
as some women or young anglers, or even high school girls that are fishing, don't let anyone tell you that you're not good enough, or that you can't do it, or that girls don't fish or don't know how to fish. You will learn. Follow your passion, follow your heart. Talking to people about fishing, you just approach them. Anybody that I have sponsored or has sponsored me are products that I believe in and that I use and I can vouch for. I'm not a type of person that's just going to try to get some kind of name on my jersey. I believe in the fish life care products, the juice stuff that you put in your live well, or even clean your live well. They have all kinds of things to badger lures or crankbaits. I mean, these are products that I can talk about, I believe in, I've used. Just let people know that you're passionate and that you're dedicated, that you're not just out there going to be a fair weather fisherman. Those girls that caught those fish and had that 30+ bag, y'all rock. I mean, that is just such an accomplishment. That is such an amazement that you can go out there on a lake and find that quality of fish. You probably learn some things about yourself. I seem to learn every trip that I make something, whether it was this frog tournament, whether it was having to deal with the weather and manage my boat. Because I was scared Thursday, I'll be honest. But I just knew I was in a situation that I had someone else's life in my hands besides my own, and I had to get back to the shore. I had to get back to Earl G, and you just have to do it. Just continue to learn. Watch your videos. Learn a new technique. Don't get caught up in just your comfort zone. That's probably a place where I may have made some mistakes in my fishing career. And I'm branching out, and I'm learning to overcome and adapt, and just have fun. Enjoy what you do. Just have fun.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest deal, is enjoy it and have fun, even if it seems stressful. You know, just have fun. Well, again, I really appreciate you coming on tonight. You're, of course, welcome back anytime if you need to try to get the word out about something or whatever, and invite some of the other ladies on. We can have 4 or 5 guests and have a round table if y'all wanted to one evening.
That'd be great. That would be great. Thanks for having me. Hopefully I've helped some information on Caddo. Good luck to everyone that's got tournaments coming up. Hopefully this weather has let these fish settle back into their homes, and you just go knock on the right tree.
There you go. All right, folks. Well, I'm fixing to go ahead and end the show. We really appreciate y'all watching. About an hour and 15 minutes. I'm going to say we got some great information tonight, and I should be back next Monday. Again, I'm trying to do this every Monday evening. Might be 7, might be 8, but I'll try to put the time ahead of time. If you got some information you want to get out, or you want to be a guest on the show, just shoot me a message. Most of you have my phone number. Text me, whatever, and be glad to have you on. Again, Alyssa, thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.